On the surface, Conan the Barbarian seems like a simple sword and sorcery tale, but if you dig a little deeper, it is so much more. It is primordial. It is a hero's journey. It is a tale of an Ubermensch. It is significant that the movie opens up with a quote from Nietzsche. His philosophy correlates directly with the ethos of the film. Conan is an Ubermensch, a man who goes beyond the constraints of regular being and forges his own destiny with his sheer will. The movie begins with his father forging a sword. The blade represents the will and the caste of men of which Conan belongs to. His father tells him the riddle of steel, which is telling him that he can only rely on his blade representing his own will. He can rely on no one else, no tricks, nothing but his sheer will. That is the riddle of steel. Conan is a Cimmerian, a race based off of the Irish and Highland Scots, Celtic people. They are from the north, barbarians living off life of freedom within their own clan systems. They value courage, independence, free will, self-reliance. They will only pledge loyalty to those who they deem worthy of it. The southern urbanite type invades his lands, kills his family, and enslaves Conan, a fate that was not uncommon to Celtic people during history, as the Romans had done this to them for hundreds of years. And these southern urbanite snake cult beings greatly correlate with the Romans. His people are a small tribe of hunters and herdsmen, and they cannot withstand a large force. They come with horses and dogs of war. People ranging from all over the land, forming this band of men, bearing the symbol of the snake. Though outnumbered, Conan's people fight valiantly against the invaders. Their leader disarms Conan's mother with his hypnotic gaze. The blue eyes are significant here, and the dual-headed serpent represents his bloodline. It is not just a symbol, but is his heraldry. You can see on the middle of his breastplate is the pyramid with the eye on top, representing the line from which he has gained his sorcery. He is of the old mystery schools of the South, learned in the ways of necromancy and dark magic. The eye on top of the pyramid represents his perception, his mastery, and separation from the lower levels of the structure. He is consciousness, awareness, perception, and all underneath him are mere matter, brick and mortar, to be used for his own devices. Conan and his young kin, enslaved, are brought to the Vanir to work on the Wheel of Pain. The Vanir is another region within the land of which Conan takes place, a vast world based on our own real world. It is said to be after the sinking of Atlantis, but before recorded time, the age of heroes, the age of mist and legend. This is where Conan lives. The Wheel of Pain, the crushing wheel of time, representing the life of mundane labor, living under control of a system which you have no choice. You do what you're told. You spend your labor for a life. Your life force becomes nothing but another being's use. Spinning round and round, his life passes by him. It is a life of pure nihilism, devoid of meaning, or honor. Now somehow Conan, I don't know what they fed him, but it was clearly was not mashed rice. He grows strong and powerful, and after years of labor becomes a force to be reckoned with. It is not by accident they chose Arnold Schwarzenegger to play Conan, for he himself is a type of Ubermensch, a man who left a land, his homeland, traveled across an ocean, and forged his own path in a foreign country, marrying in to the highest caste of their beloved politicians, starring in their great films of glory. Schwarzenegger is much like Conan in that he comes from a small, defeated nation and rises to the top within a great empire. Now that Conan is strong, he is taken to fight in the pits of the arena, and there he easily conquers his foes. He learns to embrace his inner will to overcome his opponents within the arena. It is there he begins to find meaning out of the nihilism of the wheel. He didn't care anymore for life and death. It was all the same for him. He lived for the glory of the crowd and its admiration. It brought light into his once desolate life. He has escaped the nihilism of the wheel and is beginning to forge his own way within the world. He is brought to the east to train. Here the people resemble the Mongolians, another group of noble barbarian, valuing freedom and courage, living freely off the land. And it is here Conan learns to read and write, further cementing an individuality and developing a mind and will of his own. He gets to read philosophy and poetry. There, one can develop their own sense of self and come to clashes with other people's ideas, challenge themselves, challenge their own culture by asking questions, by seeing things that they could not see before. Reading is what gives Conan his own mind. When asked what is good in life, Conan gives a very Nietzschean response. Crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear their lamentation of the women. Of course, this is what Nietzsche would say is good. Where he says, when one's power increases, when one's health is increased, when one does what he wants to do, and when his strength, his value, anything that he gains is good. On the surface, it may seem cruel, dark, Darwinistic, but there is light within that philosophy if one seeks it. Conan is freed from his Conan is freed by his master, where he sees a strength developing within Conan, the independence of mind, the forging of his own will, and fearing that Conan could one day rise up against him. He thinks it's better to free him, to spare himself his former slave's wrath. Immediately upon being freed, Conan is chased by wolves. This represents freedom in its essence. For freedom is not easy, nor is it glorious. It is a difficult path living by one's own will, and if you are not strong enough, the world will eat you quicker than if you were a slave. Thraldom and captivity, it gives one repetition, ease of access to resources, but it is mundane and repetitive. Many will choose that life of thraldom over embracing their own will, but not Conan. Conan is destined for much more. He falls into the cave and finds a blade, fashioned in the style of his father's. He remembers that he is of a people, and calls out to Chrome, his folk's god. Now having a blade, being master of his own destiny, and one with his will, he is able to go forth and conquer nature, slaying the wolves and fashioning a cloak from their furs. He now ventures out in the world a fully formed man, capable of self-reliance.